Good day to all the people of the world. My name is Frederick Stevens. I'm the president of the Coloured Persons Communal Preservation Land Trust Council of the Cape Colony. We hereby give notice that we have been mandated by the beneficiaries of the land trust to approach the International Criminal Court to lodge a charge of genocide against South African government. I will hand over to the spokesperson, Chief Colonial, to reflect on the issues.
My name is Chief Colonial. I'm from the Coloured Person Communal Land Trust Council of the Land Trust Territory of the Cape Colony. I'm the spokesperson of the Coloured Persons Beneficiary Council and Board, Trust Council and Board. I greet the international community just to set the record straight and to clear the air of all the lies and deceit about the people called coloured, proclaimed coloured. Who am I? We as a people have a long history of oppression, deprivation. Even our people was hunted by issuing of license by the colonials, the Europeans who set foot in South Africa. We went through different renditions under different administrations. And the genocide committed to our people started way back. And after the 1904 uprising of the Hottentot, the coloured people is actually the true natives. They are Hottentot proclaimed under the Act 30 of 1950. That is actually a genocide proclamation by the National Party, racist government in 1950. And from that time, things didn't work out for us. And after establishment with a political arrangement and a treaty between Britain and the apartheid government, a trust was set up. But the National Party government didn't agree with it. A lot of things happened since 1965, whereby political arrangements took place and everything is dispossessed and alienated from this trust. In 1989, the arrangement between the Coloured Representative Council and the National Party to establish a new National Party, they unilaterally closed the self-governance territory under Coloured Affairs without consent. In 1993 was another political arrangement between the National Party and the ANC. On this arrangement, they have agreed in principle to commit genocide. They have alienated all the land in trust under Act 94 of 1998, which means we don't exist. Even the court, who was the foster to protect the rights, whereby this trust was under curatorship of the Master of Court. The court is part of the corruption and the genocide of South African coloured persons, the true native people, who is the Hottentot, who was proclaimed coloured. Currently, there's many cases in the South African court where the court was captured and is captured, and the court don't want to adhere to any case laid by the coloured person. Currently, we are in court with the Master of Court over this trust. The Master has proclaimed us dead. We don't exist. The political arrangement have alienated everything. And assimilation process is driven by the ANC government to assimilate us, to proclaim us to be black, and we must denounce the term colored, which is a trust reference of the colored person. And therefore we've got no alternative due to the corruption and political arrangements with all political parties to undermine, deprive, and oppress the colored people, and also with the intimidation process, take away every right, every human right that belongs to our people. And therefore, there's no any other thing to do is to approach the International Criminal Court to lay a charge of cultural genocide against this corrupt ANC government. I thank you.
Who am I? #coloredness must fall campaign. These tyrannical lies are only institutionalized oppression, dispossession, and alienation attempts of the land, exploiting natural resources, freedom, and property rights of the Aboriginals of South Africa. Allow us to inform you of how the colonial victors of the spoils of war that governed here before, and how the National Party-led apartheid government, as well as the current ANC-led nationalist government, are applying the same strategies and tactics as the colonial victors, decades apart to alienate and expropriate the land of the Aboriginals declared colored, in the Constitution of South Africa. The Aboriginal people of South Africa was declared colored by the apartheid government, with Act 30 of 1950. The same Population Register Act is clear on whites as colonists and who they are, but makes no mention of Nguni and other African tribes from North, East, and West Africa who settled and colonized here, as landowners. The only reference to black is one of being a token of native identity, in the Population Register Act 30 of 1950. South African native is the term of reference for Nguni, and other African tribes that migrated to our land from North, East, and West Africa, and formed the Zulu and Xhosa nations amongst others, to then settle here. This shortened translates to San, meaning South African native, not Bushman neither Khoisan. Native tribalist and political leaders want to make you believe that this is correct. There are no references made, or available for Khoi and or Khoisan before or after the 1950 Population Register Act. The credit for coining the Khoisan identity goes to German National Schulz, who for the first time published his thesis in 1928 where the term Khoisan originated. The British decolonized South Africa in 3 stages starting in 1945 and finalizing in 1968. As part of the decolonization process, the British negotiations forced the nationalist Broederbond of the South African Union to sign a treaty that puts all the South African Aboriginal declared colored persons' communal land, as well as the Crown lands as it was referenced, in a trust. The beneficiaries of this trust is the colored people of South Africa. If the Broederbond refused, they would not get their union they were seeking during that time. This trust land, together with its resources, assets, and funds was legally secured and became known as the Colored Persons Communal Reserves Trust Land Act 3 of 1961, in the South African Constitution. The British understood the inhumane intentions and the dispossessive actions of the nationalist Broederbond, much better than the colored people did. That is the reason why they put our land and resource wealth in a trust. In fact, the trust, and its contents was well hidden away from the colored people with great efforts, elaborate laws, and genocide by the apartheid government. The same is happening today, with the current ANC-led nationalist government. They want you to denounce the identity token colored, because it is the reference to your trust land, resources, trust funds, property rights, and freedom. However, Section 25 of the South African Constitution protect the land, freedom, and property rights of the colored people that is held, in the Colored Persons Communal Reserves Land Trust Act 3 of 1961. The current ANC-led nationalist government is seeking to repeal Section 25 of the South African Constitution, citing it as an impediment for them. Impediment means hindrance, hurdle, or obstacle.
It is very important for the world to take note about the unrecognized genocide committed from the 1800s until 94 arrangement, where the last piece of land trust and assets in trust, unilateral political arrangement was alienated. Therefore, with the BEEs and all other policies, is created specifically to totally extinct the existence of the two native people, Hottentot, the two native people of South Africa, which they call also San and Khoisan, is the true colored people of South Africa. And therefore, South Africa has never recognized the genocide committed against its people, who was hunted like animals after the plague proclamation of the 1800s. Exercise carried out in 1904 was issuing of hunting license bounty on a Hyatt of Hottentot, today known as colored. And this is our call to the world international community to support the colored persons, the true natives of South Africa, the aboriginal people in South Africa, against the South African government, who've been for the last 30 years lying to us. But Act 94 of 1998 confirmed cultural genocide because nothing belonged to us. Everything is stolen and proclaimed as state property.